There's been a lot online lately which has been incredibly disturbing. A lot of it to do with the politics of what's happening in Australia at the moment. Normally I would just get on and do a light and fluffy little thing about how my week's been going, but this week really has been hard. There's been plenty of tears, and plenty of moments when I'm it's unfathomable how people are reacting to certain things in Australia at the moment, in particular detention centres on Manus and Nauru Islands. And it's a big talk, and it's something which I'm sure most of you aren't necessarily going to be interested in, but at the same time, it's something that we all should pay attention to, because people are losing their lives and people are losing their liberty, and people are being used as political pawns by governments to get into power and to stay into power. And they're manipulating public opinion against people seeking asylum in this country as illegal immigrants. Well, I got something to tell you, people. If you didn't know this already, it's not illegal to seek asylum in another country. It just isn't. And that's a pretty big point, considering every single government that's been in power since Keating has used that line to convince you that these people are illegal and therefore they're not worthy of the same rights and respect that you or I are. They're trying to get you to believe that somebody who has arrived in Australia by boat is somehow equatable to a murderer or a rapist or a terrorist. That's just not the case. And there are plenty of people in there who haven't even come by boats. A lot of them have just had their visas cancelled. Imagine that. You're in a country, your visa gets cancelled, and then you get put in jail indefinitely with no rights. You're not allowed to seek legal counsel. You can't even talk to your family or the public about it. How is that possible? In Australia in 2016, how is that possible? Now, not only is this detention mandatory, it's also not time limited, which means that people can be held indefinitely. I'm even talking about children. I mean, Australia is putting children in jail. Just let that sink in. People are not even allowed to challenge why they are in detention in a court. It's not allowed. Zero rights. Doctors, aid workers, and healthcare professionals are not allowed to talk publicly about what they witness in detention centres, no matter how bad those conditions are, under the threat of 2 years in jail if they do so without prior permission from the government. People are being silenced. This is arbitrary detention. It's a breach of Australia's human rights obligations, and the Papua New Guinean government has deemed it illegal. The very place that these people have been sent to has deemed it illegal. Now, there are a lot of people who have come before Peter Dutton. You cannot lay the blame entirely on this man, but he is defending Australia's actions right now. Now, this week, two people have set themselves on fire as a form of protest. Now, the first involved a 23-year-old Iranian man, Omid Somali, and he died a terrible death and had to wait 24 hours before he could be evacuated to Australia. It was 2 hours before he received any medical attention, and then about another 8 hours before he got any morphine. So for 10 hours, he would have been in excruciating agony because 80 to 90% of his body had suffered life-threatening injuries, and the people who run the Nauru have said that they acted promptly. And I'm sorry, but 10 hours in absolute agony, knowing you're going to probably die without anyone helping you, is not okay. Now, his wife has been held at an immigration detention centre in Brisbane, and she got word out that the conditions that she's being held in, they're pretty awful too. She's not really even allowed to speak out or cry, or if her voice is raised, they basically are sedating her. And it looks like they want her to go back to Iran with the body, and they want them to foot the bill, a $16,000 bill. I'm so ashamed to be Australian right now. Oh, sorry. Now, that incident happened on Friday, and the second incident has happened on Monday. with a young Somali woman, 21-year-old Hodan Yassin, who, despite apparently being under watch, managed to escape and set fire to herself. And she was brought over to Australia to be looked after. But during the recovery process, she has been taken back to Nauru. I understand that this is very difficult stuff to talk about, and the reason I wanted to was because these people are being held in a situation the government thinks that if they're out of sight, that makes them out of mind and out of conscience. And I just wanted everyone to know that these people matter. Their lives matter, and their names matter, and their stories matter. And you can't just sweep them under the carpet. And at least I hope this is going to get out there, and some people will see it and learn a few things about this situation they didn't know, because I don't see how anyone who knows these things could actually actively condone them. And right now, that's what our immigration minister, Peter Dutton, is doing. His response to that has been to blame rights advocates for encouraging people to self harm in order to get into this country. Can you believe that?